Allen, thank you so much for coming out. And I believe this is your print that we played tonight, correct?
Well, you just educated me to that. I mean, I forgot everything. I don't.
If you forgot everything, it's going to make this Q&A a long night.
This is 31 years ago now.
Yeah.
Some people in this room aren't even that old, right?
Yeah.
Again, just for a show of hands, how many people are just watching for the first time tonight?
Oh, wow. That's a trip.
What do you guys think of it?
It's awesome.
I didn't watch it.
Have you ever seen your own movie?
I saw this last time. I think it opened the New York Film Festival in Lincoln's. Is it Lincoln Center? Or
Yeah, Lincoln Center.
is it still called the Lincoln Center?
I don't think that one's been renamed.
I think that's the last time I saw this. And then every now and then on cable, you just stop and whatever. But it's a sore spot for my brother and I because it's an immature film. So, we were 22 and yeah, we're just kids.
This was your second feature. Can you talk about after Menace to Society when you guys decided, like started thinking about your follow-up film? At what point did this come, Dead Presidents, come to you?
Well, I'll try to make this story short because it's a trip. The first music video we did in '91 where we met Tupac, and it was a spin-off group of Digital Underground called Raw Fusion. You guys know Raw Fusion? Yeah, that's great. And Hollywood Basic was a Disney hip-hop label. Our first music video at 19 was this music video, Throw Your Hands in the Air. It was a black and white music video. And Michael Eisner was meeting with all his departments, the head of Disney, who Bob Iger is now, right? And he said, who directed this little black and white music video? He said, these Hughes twins. We weren't going to use these Hughes guys, whatever. He said, sign into a movie contract right now. It tells you how incredible this dude really was. And I guess the story goes, he sent Katzenberg to close the deal. But Katzenberg farmed it off to someone else. And they told us to come to Hollywood Pictures, or what was the other one? Touchstone, yeah. And we were in this meeting. I remember me and my brother got in a huge argument on the way, as we would always argue. Just fucked up VW, we were driving. Coming to the meetings, literally, we don't have a dime to our name. We just did our first music video. And the guy goes, listen, we got to make you a deal. We want to make a movie deal with you guys. You guys, we'll give you $60,000 and you go away for a year and whatever you write, we own. And he made a mistake of saying, and the program is this minority program. I go, whoa, what? He said, yeah, it's a minority program. I said, this meeting's over. And we walked out. A year and a half later, when Menace came out, it was such an incredible reaction from critics that the New Line Cinema would they just stopped running the poster, they just put the critics, top 10 critics. Eisner comes into a board meeting and yells in front of everyone at Katzenberg and says, what the fuck is this? How did this happen? This is how sharp this guy is. Now go get these guys by any means necessary to a deal. This is after Menace. Everyone wanted Sony, Universal, this. Our agents call us and go, Disney wants to make a deal with you guys. We're like, Disney, fuck Disney. It doesn't even, it's not even concluded, and also they were notorious back then for being terrible filmmakers. So long story short, Katzenberg had to come and really woo us. And I also, before that, I said, wait, what time does Katzenberg go to bed? He likes to go to bed at 10 p.m. every night. What side of town does he like to meet on? He doesn't like meeting anywhere east of Doheny. I said, all right, well, let's meet east of Doheny, 10:30, and that's how we made this deal. And it was a final cut. They gave us everything.
Wow.
Which was a problem. And that's why it's so gory, too. We were just like, fuck this, It's just immature shit, I tried to shorten that story.
That's probably the best introduction of how this film how any film ever got made ever. So, but how did you land on the idea of Dead Presidents? What was the genesis for you and your brother to
That was actually the question.
Yeah.
Pressure. Now there's like a multi-million-dollar signing deal. They're throwing stupid money at us, and we got to figure out what we want to make. And there was some ideas we were kicking around. Somehow we came across this book called Bloods, which was Black Vietnam veterans' experiences, a series of short stories, true stories in Vietnam. And this was one of the stories in that book. And I think, just to answer that question, it was like, we were passionate about the idea, but I think it was, what you're hearing from me was rushed. And that's how the idea came up.
Because this movie, it mixes a lot of genres into one, because you get coming of age story, you get a Vietnam story, you get a heist movie, and you also kind of get like an indictment of how like shitty the American government was to people of color, and just in general post-Vietnam, and like that fall off.
Yeah.
Like, can you talk about kind of weaving all those elements together and like?
That's where I think the critics really hit us pretty hard. They kept saying it's too ambitious. It's too ambitious, and I think, and yeah, there was the process of like writing it and figuring it all out was challenging, because the last time I saw the film, the problem I have with the film is it's missing beats. It's like it's very much a product of its time, which is like it's like a good hip hop album of the '90s, where like there's 12 tracks and 6 are hot and the other 6 are getting thrown away. So it's like there's beats missing now. You know, like for him to go to the level where he's gonna do what he did in the heist, it's all relatable stuff. It all really happened in the plight of the Black Vietnam veteran at the time too. Like what he was experiencing was way more harsh than your average veteran. But I don't think we illustrated those beats properly to get to that point of desperation. So, you know, they're just missing beats. And I know that's not the question you asked, but it's still sore for me.
I mean, it's a fair point. Like, the thing about, because did you feel like because you had all this money and like, did you feel like you rushed and didn't? I'm not saying didn't think it through, but like, just felt like we got to get something. We got to strike when the iron's hot, because that's how the Hollywood system kind of works.
It wasn't real. You know, one thing people got to realize about any art form or craft or anything that's going to be good or great, you need opposition. You need like someone to say no. You need that. You need someone not to believe in it too. And people think, you know, with freedom comes like great things. Nothing great comes with total artistic freedom. And I think that what happened was we were in pre-production. I don't know, even before pre-production, it just felt weird. There were things in the contract that our agents at the time, we were really, really hot at the time. So this contract was insane. Like the type of contracts you hear, don't look in the eyes. Don't do, when you see him go this way. We didn't know that was part of the thing. So like the executives or no one can give us notes, no one can say anything to us. It was just this weird feeling. And I later found out that one of the executives said, hey, you know, I don't think this script is ready. And President Stu said, don't tell me. We gotta get this. We gotta go into production. 3 weeks before shooting, me and my brother were in Manhattan in the production office, and we were looking at each other and just like, we should go home. Something was just, it just was odd. I couldn't describe the feeling. There was no opposition. It was boring. It was, I don't know if that's the word for it. It just felt weird. There was nothing to fight for or whatever. So we had to dig deep and fight for ourselves, you know. And I don't even know if that makes sense to you.
It makes a lot of sense. Is that like you're just saying, like, you know, be creative. Sometimes you have to have someone that's going to push back and say maybe not this, and then like fight for those things that you want.
Yeah, racks focus on everything.
But what happened with you was just like, sure, just do it.
Yeah, it was especially being like black kids, you know, like you're not used to, hey, give them everything. Don't say no. Don't challenge them. You know, like, I think opposition, it defines you. It defines, and also like, who are you trying to prove this to? There's always that internal thing too. Like I always tell people, like, are you trying to show your parents? Is it your father you're pissed off at? Is it your ex you're pissed off at? Like, you better be pissed at someone, trying to prove to someone, I'm worth a fuck and I'm really gonna show you. And I think that's part of great art too, is like, who's the person you're, who's the person you're trying to prove something to? But that also in the process, there better be an antagonist in the process, and that's usually the studio. And if they're not antagonizing you, it's a foreign film. So it was a very foreign film.
Yeah.
Hence the dicks and mouths and cut off shit and that.
I'll tell you, Walt wouldn't let you have done it. But I do want to talk about, because this is also a period piece, and like, you know, you're shooting New York, and I believe we talked a little bit as like Florida ended up being Vietnam.
Orlando.
But you were telling me you also went to Thailand during pre-production, the location scout, and then what was it like you were taking like those disposable camera photos?
Yeah, one of those Kodak little yellow the cardboard ones.
Yeah.
We're taking pictures while we're smoking Thai stick. That was the best weed ever. We had no paper, so we reverted to the Bible paper and all that. That shit works. And we're taking pictures in Thailand, and I guess, you know, at that point, it's like, it was just too much money to go to Thailand. But ultimately, the CG guys actually took the photos from those shitty-ass little cameras and taken the mountains, and they put them in Orlando.
That's incredible, though.
And we snatched a water buffalo from somewhere. It was a pig farm. It was a pig farm we were shooting. A pig, I don't know, like shooting sanctuary.
It was just like a kind of a pig sanctuary that became Vietnam.
Yeah. Very fitting.
I do want to talk about the cast, because this is an incredible cast that you put together. We'll start with Lorenz Tate. Like, you obviously with Menace.
Yeah.
Was he your first choice?
He was our first choice, and it was touch and go there for a while, because he had blown up like we had blown up, and I don't know if there was something going on at first where it just wasn't working, and he was playing hard to get, and so we had to go through that process, and it was great ultimately, because when he came, he was young in Menace. He had turned 17 during production, so he's very young when we made this, and I kind of saw Lorenz become a man during the making of this, because when we were in Orlando, we trained with Captain Del Dye, the same gentleman that did Platoon, who was the guy that would train. He takes you out for a week, and you live like these soldiers. They put you through all your paces. I saw Lorenz grow up overnight, just in that process, because it was also like one of the coldest nights we spent was one of those nights out in the bush in Orlando, and waking up to a fire and just looking at Lorenz's face the first morning. Like, I just saw him. He was shook, you know, but he dug deep and delivered, and he's awesome to work with, and he's just an incredible, well-trained actor, but also with great, you know, as far as all the kids in Menace, he's the one that had the most experience. And in this show too, you look at Chris Tucker. This is Chris Tucker's first film. This is Terrence Howard's first film. What am I forgetting about? The whole cast was.
Yeah, Freddie Rodriguez.
Freddie Rodriguez's first film as well. Yeah.
Michael Imperial.
Michael Imperial, not his first film, but we were blessed to have him, because I wanted. Who did I want? No, that was Freddie. Michael Imperial had to do
The dick in the mouth.
which is somewhere in one of our closets with the dirt smell.
Prosthetics look on.
Uncircumcised. Period accurate though.
At no point did Disney say like, hey, maybe not, because the Vietnam section is probably some of the goriest war stuff put the camera.
I don't remember hearing, maybe they did, but again, we had Final Cut, so it didn't matter. Our biggest foe became Jack Valente, the head of the NBA, and that was always a nightmare dealing with them. Especially you talk about like the business of the trip, because like Spielberg can do whatever the fuck, you know, like Schindler's List, like they're blowing everyone's brains out and doing everything. and I actually went in to make a presentation to save our film, and they just kept making us cut it, and bring the blood down, bring the squibs down, and I was getting ready to make a presentation in front of all these old fucks and Jacqueline. It was awesome. And they're like, no, you can't bring any evidence. No, you can't do this, you can't do that. So that was a struggle with the NPA to get it from what was it? Was NC-17 back then?
Yeah, I think NC-17 had just come around because they got tired of using X in the porno connotations. They're like, NC-17, it sounds more presentable for a movie that no kid can go see.
And how they fucked off Midnight Cowboy with it.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, I didn't sleep myself.
It's fine. No, but yeah, so you had a battle with the MPAA over like, was it just mainly the Vietnam segment or like just
all of it? That heist. All the
squibs.
All the squibs. Same thing with Memphis. It was always within, especially in black cinema back then. They're just tough on black filmmakers and tough, just like across the board. Like, it's a black kid doing it, a black person doing it. It's 10 times worse to them. It's kind of incite this or incite that. All that bullshit.
I mean, that was kind of always the problem with the MPAA because there was a double, triple standard that like certain people, as you said, Spielberg got to walk away free and like blow the fuck out of everyone and say goodbye to Ryan. And like you're doing something similar, like nope.
Fear of a Black Planet. I don't know. It's very frustrating.
Talk about something like one of the things I think people got delighted to see was seeing Keith David in this movie. You talk about working with Keith David.
It's funny. I don't know where Keith was in his career. Keith is always working, and especially in voice work. He'd be in his trailer doing these Shakespearean exercises. But by the way, he was like having a great veteran on an all-star. On a championship run. When you're in the NBA, you got to have that wily older veteran that brings the kids together, calms them down, and he was awesome. And I think this film really was a spike for him. It's like he had always been working, he'd always been recognized as a strong actor, but because originally Sam Jackson was doing the role, and Die Hard, whatever the third Die Hard was, went over schedule. Fuck, so we lost Sam, and then Keith came in, and I was familiar with Keith's work, especially the tune, and that was a kind of a cool tie-in. And, he was just, he just had the gravitas, and it was totally different than Sam, but totally delightful to see what he was bringing to it. And you don't have to really direct Keith David, but he was very directable. That was always a hard thing with being young filmmakers too, is when you're working with OGs. Is, they're looking at you like this punk kid's gonna tell me whatever, but Keith didn't have that attitude.
He's terrific, and like I've never seen a man still having one leg. Now, your DP on this film and also his menace was Lisa Rensler, correct?
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you and your brother worked with her on the first film and versus like how you guys had grown or like changed like aesthetic wise for the second one, like? Because this is a very stylish movie because I think in the early the party scene where like you have all the light colored like gel lighting and things like that. Vietnam, there's a lot of things going on. Can you talk about like kind of approaching like the aesthetics and the look of the film?
I was raised by like a feminist, so no one I can really say this. I'm thinking as a feminist at the time, and I kind of get fucked up along the way. Lisa Rensler had shot. She's a little short white woman, petite white woman. Had shot some of the most iconic hip hop videos of all time. With our first mentor Tamara Davis, who was awesome, and they shot Tone Lopes. Lisa didn't shoot that. She shot the DOCs. Funky enough, classic. Lisa shot that. Lisa shot a lot of things with Tamara Davis at the time, so we really wanted to work with Lisa. This petite white woman started crossing my mind like, wait a minute, for Menace, she's incredible, but somehow she sensed that I was hesitating. And I don't know how she sensed it, but she sensed that I was hesitating. And she said, I think you're having problems because, the obvious, but I want you to watch this documentary that I just shot. And I'm like, what is the documentary about? It was It was a sex documentary about like, I don't even remember if it was sex workers or kinky. It was a kink documentary. And there's a scene in it. I'm trying to describe this one. Where the camera's down here on a guy's balls, like the camera's down here, and his dominatrix is taking a cheese grater, like just pow, pow, just pow, like bitch, you got the job. I don't know how you do that, but you got the job. We gotta look that up. We gotta look that documentary.
So you guys got fellas looking around PB and something yell out that. Because I think everyone's gonna go home and watch it tonight.
Not the grading in, but the trickling in, but just to be specific.
But she has shot iconic like hip hop videos, had more video menace. Could you talk about like the look of the dead presidents?
Well, I mean, we wanted to change from menace and become a little more stylized. We were fascinated with the 70s exploitation films, the red light stuff, obviously, the French Connection type, just the vibe of 70s cinema. So it was a departure from what we had done on Menace, but Lisa was always very like, her strength was single camera. We never shot multiple cameras. Maybe one time on Dead, but a couple times on Dead Presidents. So it was difficult because we're like, she's not a fast DP, but she's a gorgeous DP. You see it pay off, and she's a purist. So whatever ideas we brought, she had ideas, and it would just build off one another. We would sit and study a lot. We studied a lot of spaghetti westerns for this one too, which was odd. I don't know why, but I think the operatic nature of it, So Lisa was always a great partner, but I think that on Dead Presidents, the friction came when we wanted to shoot multiple cameras, and she was very pure, and it paid off. It paid off.
Because the film looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Now you mentioned you watched spaghetti westerns. Were there any other influences that were going into that you and your brother were watching while like wanting to make this, or
The Mac. The Mac. And I think the Mac, if you haven't seen the Mac, you gotta watch the Mac. It's Richard Pryor in his first movie role when Richard Pryor was like becoming Richard Pryor. And, it's probably the first time you hear punk motherfucker on camera. Like the street. I always say Richard Pryor is like the blueprint and the lexicon for hip hop. Like all those motherfuckers and niggas and anything the way he does it, it's streets obviously, but Richard Pryor on wax, you can pull the thread right to hip hop, right? So if you watch the Mac, what we would do is immerse Chris Tucker, Lorenz Tate, Freddie, all of them, like we just watch it over for the mannerisms and the rhythms, because there were real street pimps in there, real street hustlers in there, and particularly Max Julian too, and Richard Pryor. The way they were talking, it was like a documentary, and that was what we were studying a lot of that, listening to a lot of Isaac Hayes, obviously, and Curtis Mayfield, my personal favorite, and like really playing those records, getting in the living room of where we were living in Manhattan at the time. We would get the guys together, just always playing music, always playing films. And I would also like edit all my favorite scenes back on VHS tape. And I always have that constantly on the reel so they could be soaking that up. It would be playing in the trailer while we were making the movie as well. So they could be soaking that up, because everyone was like 20 years old. Like there's 20, 21 years old. These kids and us at the time, they're new to all this stuff. So we're just trying to immerse everyone in the sound and the film of it all.
Which is another element I was going to talk about, like the editing, the sound editing, because this has really nice like sound work in it. Like, could you talk about like what you were looking for, like putting the movie together? Like, obviously you had final cuts, so no one's going to stop you from doing it.
Well, that was my personal. Like I'm the sound guy, so I really took a lot of pride in doing that on this one. But my biggest inspiration was Oliver Stone. If you listen to JFK, if you watch The Doors, if you watch, obviously it goes back to Platoon. What is the one I'm forgetting about? JFK is the one where it's like, we're not talking about like Jurassic Park sound. We're not talking about Marvels. We're talking about like nuanced, real, but pure. Like the sound mixing's impeccable, the sound recording's impeccable, the dialogue, the way the I don't know, the way the scores being mixed, all of it. It's just a very nuanced. So that was my the guy I would study the most and try to meet. And also you put a lot of hip hop into it. You know, I used to take those guys out. Most of the mixers back then, they looked like Harley Davidson guys. You know, they were like very white, very not into hip hop. But I would take them and put them in the truck with 415s and play tracks I like. You hear that level right there? You know, like play machine guns. I like the recoil off the machine. I like the metallic, hearing the recoil, hearing the shells. All the details that will bring out like emotion in people that, even if you haven't heard or seen anyone get shot, you know a real gunshot or the way that visceral sound sounds, you know, it'll go in there. I remember one time at the sound mix, they were mixing Mortal Kombat on one and they're mixing Dead Presidents on the other stage. And I just kept, I don't know, I think it must have been probably the Vietnam sequence. I just kept going lower because I'm trying to get this bass lower, like lower, lower. And the whole building went, and everything shut down for like 8 hours. So the next day they're literally bringing in these, I don't know what the fuck these things are now. They're massive, like these supplemental sound mixing amps that can handle, so the building doesn't shut down. So we were, you know, that was the hip hop part, like just pushing the bass. You know?
It's like you're taking the low end, like you probably remember Sense Around or Sense Around. Like it's like you're doing almost Sense Around with the low end.
Yeah. I mean, at that point too, we're learning how to. I'm learning about the, you know. See this one. 5.1 was 5.1. It was at the AC3. I don't remember now what it was at the time, but you're working with rear channels now, and you can put isolate sound in the rear right here. This is like real, like primitive time of it though, not like what it is now. We've got 7.1 now.
Yeah.
Atmos, you had all that.
Atmos, Dolby.
So back then it was like 5, you know. So like, and also like when they get on that stick and you start, you know, like there's just that little knob, you can start moving something around the room. I start getting obsessed with like moving sounds and pitching sounds and also like where the music's sitting. Now I get really obsessed with the multi-track because I like to like balance things. Back then I don't think I was fucking with multi-tracks with music, but so it's a lot of sound, and you're trying to. I just love sound, so it was. That's always the fun part with filmmaking because that's where the fairy dust comes out. You know, where you can really make magic happen in sound.
So I just got a signal to wrap here, unfortunately, and I basically talked about this film in your whole career all night. Hopefully you're gonna come back for something else.
We're bringing that Pittman back, man.
Oh yeah.
Woo!
So one last question, because currently, someone's gonna correct me if I'm wrong. This is not available for Blu-ray in the United States. Would you like to see this get a nice release at some point?
Of course, they made me come into Disney like it felt like 5 years ago. It was probably 10, and like they did it, and they treated it like it was Mary Poppins. Or they rolled out the red carpet. It was so beautiful what they did. So they restored it. But I never seen it come out on any Blu-ray or even though it is on Criterion Laserdisc.
Yeah.
I think it came out on Criterion Blu-ray or whatever the fuck.
Well, someone's got the Laserdisc right there.
Listen, look at that. Turn that around. That's the one thing. Turn it around to the room. Watch this. Now the one thing I as much as I shit on this film, turn the face around. Show everyone the face. It did become the Halloween costume of the century.
Yeah.
Allen, thank you so much.